Major League Baseball released their top 100 plays of the season. The Dodgers have the top two spots, but maybe not in the order that you thought. The Dodgers had a lot of other spots. Let's talk about it. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. This is the daily podcast covering the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, that's someone that listens or watches every day, you can do so and make it easier on yourself by subscribing and get notified when our episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube like we are here on Monday night. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. My name is Vince Samperio. That's Jeff Snider. And we have been doing this podcast here for 6+ years now, going into season 7. We've been covering the Dodgers for 10 years now, going into the 11th. A few different ways. We actually met at Dodgers spring training while covering the team. We've been in the press box. We've been in the locker room. We've talked to players. We've talked about the Dodgers. We've watched the Dodgers. Most importantly, we've been fans and have seen a lot of different Dodger-related things in our lives. And we're here to continue to talk about them because why not? And we are here to talk about the Dodgers' involvement in the top 100 plays of the season from MLB. Not sure the criteria or the voting or whatever the process is to get to that point. But either way, the Dodgers were involved a lot in both sides, in positive form for the Dodgers and in form that's not so positive against the Dodgers. But we're going to talk about all that. We're going to save it to them. Let's talk about it now real quick before we get into a little bit of news. We got a report that Teoscar Hernandez is looking for $22 to $24 million a year from Mark Feinsand. I don't think there was a number of years attached to that. So more than you thought, Jeff, about where you thought, or what do you think?
It seems like it must be a year's thing. If that's what he's looking for and hasn't signed yet, it seems like I saw one report from some guy, Hacksaw Hamilton, is a San Diego radio guy. I hadn't heard of him, but I haven't lived in California in 30 years. So, but he said a couple days ago that Teo was looking for 3 years and $90 million, and the Dodgers were willing to offer 2 years and $60 million. I could see the Dodgers holding out at 2 years, maybe. It seems like if he was willing to take 2 years and even at the high end there, $48 million, that the Dodgers would have done it already. So I would guess it's the years hang up but still, I mean, if anything, that makes me more confident that the Dodgers are eventually going to re-sign Teoscar Hernandez, because even if they have to go to a third year at the high end of that, 3 years, $72 million, I think is something that all of us as fans would be comfortable with, even if there is a real chance that he's not good in the third year of that contract. You're on mute.
If it comes down to money, the fact that he's only asking for 24 mil should be good. Like 3 years, 72 go. If they're trying to get that fourth year, maybe that's where the negotiating is going on. But again, we talked about it yesterday. We expect to see Teoscar in Dodger blue next year. So, and if he just has, realistically, it's tough because you can't say, just focus on hitting, no more defense, because the Dodgers can't do that with the way they're set up. But either way, right field, if he can hold it down, they can tell him, hey, you know what you got to do? You got to focus on defense a little bit. But just give us what you gave us offensively, and we can maybe handle the defense on the other side of things.
Of course, he had a career best year for the most part. So I don't know if even as he ages, give us what you gave us on offense is realistic for 3 full years. But I think it's worth the trade-off probably.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the top 100 plays and start from number 100, which is probably the one that, we'll see a lot in the future. Obviously, we'll see some of these in the future a lot, but this one for sure. It's Walker Buehler striking out Alex Verdugo to secure the World Series title for the Dodgers. Walker Buehler with the to what essay, as they said in dodgeball, to the dugout, to the crowd, to whatever it was, and a new one that kind of, thankfully for us Dodger fans, it kind of takes away from, or not takes away, but replaces the 2021 as the latest version, just because Julio Diaz hasn't necessarily made it that easy to really want to root for that moment as hard as maybe before. But yeah, this one, I mean, I think Michael Duarte had talked to Buehler after that game, and Buehler was thinking about. He had told me that Buehler was thinking about what he wanted to do once he secured the last out, because he wanted to do something different to get remembered, and that definitely was something to remember.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I think this play is either too high or too low on the list, because it's just a strikeout. It's a nice curveball, strike out a decent hitter. So the play itself isn't that big a play. The reason it's a big play is because it won the World Series. But because of that, it's like, okay, the World Series winning play is only number 100. So either you call it just a regular old strikeout and don't put it on the list, or you say, Walker Buehler pitching in relief on 1 day rest, all that stuff got to be a little bit higher, especially, when we get to some of the other ones that are at least partially influenced by, the physical condition of Freddie Freeman. It's like, well, Buehler pitching in relief on 1 day's rest. I don't know. I would have, seems to me like that one would have been higher, but also it's kind of funny. You mentioned the Dodgers are well represented on this list. The Dodgers have either 10 or 11 plays on this list, depending on how you want to define it. We'll get to the asterisk in a little bit. There's also 14 plays that went against them. So a full 25 of the 100 plays involve the Dodgers, when, on average, you figure there's 2 teams per play, 200. So a total of 200 possibilities, 30 teams, that's 6.7 per team. So the Dodgers are very well represented. So maybe that's why they put Buehler at number 100, because there was already going to be a lot of Dodgers on this list.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think the fact that Buehler made it look so easy maybe took away from the celebration part was cool, but he just went in there and got 3 outs pretty easily, and there wasn't really a threat. I think if maybe there was some runners on, it would have been more stressful for us in the moment for sure, but it would have made it a bigger moment overall. But either way, I'll take it the way it happened, because we didn't really have to stress. There's more though. We'll talk about the rest, but we're gonna go talk about some other stuff, and then we'll come back and talk about the rest of the Dodgers top 100 plays. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season, and that means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better. And it's the perfect gift. And what is Game Time? Well, Game Time is the easiest and best way to get tickets for all live events, sporting events, theater, comedy, concerts, you name it. Game Time is there to help you out. And they got a bunch of different features to help you get what you need. And, right now it's basketball season, and it's hockey season, and it's football season. And if the Raiders were good, I probably would want to go. I probably would have went to this Monday night Raider game that just happened, and I would have used the Game Time app, and I would probably use Game Time Picks, because it gets all the fluff out the way. It gives you the incredible deals on great seats, and you don't have to waste time searching. So go download the Game Time app, check out Game Time Picks, and check out all the other great things they have. All in pricing, views from your seat, lowest price guaranteed. It's all there on the Game Time app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers a listen of your day. First listen, last listen, third listen, whatever listen. We appreciate you for listening. If you're not an everydayer, you can become one by listening or watching every day. And, if you want to check us out live, sometimes we're here on YouTube most nights, Sunday through Thursday. And then, the chats get popping. It feels like you're watching it with friends. And you can also on YouTube, you can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, Those are two streaming channels that are going 24/7, bringing the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. All right, Jeff, let's talk about some of these other plays. We'll go through all the ones that were positive for the Dodgers, and then, maybe talk a little bit about some of the ones that went against the Dodgers. But number 96, Ohtani homering at the All-Star game. I'll just say real quickly, it was cool in the moment, but then the NL lost, so ultimately not as cool.
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani homering in the All-Star game was, it's obviously not Ohtani's first All-Star game, and but his first one as a Dodger, and a big home run for him that probably, like you said, probably would have been higher on the list if the National League had won that game.
Yeah, definitely. The next one on the list is in the playoffs, and we'll talk about a couple of playoff ones. Tommy Edmonds' homer off Sean Manaea in NLCS Game 6, and then Ohtani's homer off Dylan Cease in NLDS Game 1. We've talked about Ohtani's homer off Cease and, how it just felt like a point where, what Ohtani went on to do some other things in the postseason, but without that home run, who knows? I don't know if the Dodgers, it seemed to just pick them back up when they might have been down and could have stayed down.
Yeah, and it's hard to know how much of that is us as fans projecting, because for a lot of us, when the Padres went up 3-0 in Game 1, it's like, not again. I don't know if the players feel that way. Ohtani wasn't on the team when the Dodgers lost to the Padres in 2022. Several of the guys weren't, and so I don't know if they felt that way, but it was definitely a huge moment for us as fans to get the Dodgers out of that hole and remind us, remind people who maybe suffer from Vince Samperio disease of, living in constant dread in October that the Dodgers are not going to hit the ball, to remind us, oh yeah, this team can hit. Maybe it's going to be okay. So it was huge psychically.
Yeah. Edmonds homer off Manaea. I mean, it was one of those where, similar to like when the Dodgers took the lead in the series, and you're like, okay, they're gonna win the series, but Sean Manaea did dominate them earlier on. You weren't sure entirely how it was gonna go, and that just gave them a little bit of breathing room in that Game 6, and the Dodgers got to punch their ticket to the World Series, so that was fun to watch. We'll move on. I don't know unless you had something to add on the Edmund one.
No, that was the Edmund game, and that was kind of the way it was phrased on the Top 100. Like, they just showed the home run, but the stats is like, NLCS MVP, drove in 4 runs in the clinching game, all that stuff. So at that point, after the home run, it was 4-0, and Edmund had driven in all 4 runs.
Yeah, the next one on the list, number 60, Shohei Ohtani passes Hideki Matsui for most home runs by a Japanese-born player. If you're an extreme fan of Ohtani, probably a big moment. If you're Japanese, definitely a big moment. But if you're just like, you are a fan of Ohtani because he's on the Dodgers, or if you're a fan of the Dodgers, maybe not the most exciting moment, but the fact that he got it with the Dodgers, just another accolade to kind of have. You assume at the end of this 10 years, if things go the way we think, Ohtani's going to go in as a Dodger in Hall of Fame anyways, but, just another thing you can think of.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one I was a little bit surprised it was as high on the list as it was. When I think of Ohtani's big home runs, because the home run itself wasn't a huge home run, a memorable one. I mean, the one that's not on the list that was much more memorable was the 473 footer or whatever. But this one, because it was historic in his standing among Japanese players in Major League Baseball, it makes sense to be where it is.
Yeah. The next one is number 51. When Teo threw out Giancarlo Stanton in World Series Game 3, obviously a big moment on the field. And I remember this play vivid. Well, obviously I remember because I was watching it, but I was in the bleachers in left field, or behind the bleachers in left field, standing. And as soon as the ball was hit, and I knew who was on second base, and, Yankee fans are going crazy excited. And when Teo got the ball and Stan was about like one step past third base, and I was like, oh, why did they send him? And at that point, the Yankees were down 2-0 in the series and were down in the game. So if I was on the flip side of things, I probably would have been like, oh, yeah, you got to send him there because your next guy's probably not going to get a hit. Like, we haven't been hitting. But it ended up being closer than I thought. But it all worked. It was perfectly timed, and I think I don't know. Watching Stan run is just so sad these days.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I don't know if this is a hot take by me or not. I think 9 times out of 10, Stanton's probably safe on that play, because it did take a perfect throw, and what was that throw was like 93 miles an hour or something, right? By Teoscar.
Yeah.
And looking at Teoscar this year, his hardest throw in the regular season was 93.1. His average was 87.5. And so basically, it was the best throw Teoscar Hernandez made all year. And Stanton was barely out. It still took a really nice tag by Smith, all that stuff. And I don't know, because it's weird. I agree with you. Like where Stanton was when Teoscar got the ball and how good a throw it was. How was it even that close? I also saw it was also the fastest that Stanton ran all year, which is funny because considering how slow he looked, because it was still basically he was at Kike Hernandez speed there.
I think the fact that he's 6'5" definitely was the only reason why it was close, I would assume.
Yeah. And so it was wild, but I do think it's hard to make that perfect throw. Throwing your hardest throw of the year perfectly to the catcher, right into the runner sliding in. I do think 8 or 9 times out of 10, Stanton's probably safe on that play. So I don't think it's a terrible decision to send him.
Yeah, I mean, in the moment, I didn't think it was especially like I said, for the simple fact of I don't expect the next guy to hit, and maybe if you're a third base coach, you do, if you're the Yankee third base coach, but for me, I'm like, no, if we're gonna have a chance of scoring, you never know. Something could happen. The throw could be off, whatever the case. But ultimately, the Dodgers won that game, and obviously won the World Series. So the next one on the list is a Dodger player, but not when he was on the Dodgers. Michael Kopech's immaculate inning was number 14. I know immaculate innings are cool, but number 14 seems high. I don't know.
Yeah, immaculate innings are a lot more rare than you think. Like there's 2 no-hitters on the list. Immaculate innings happen about 1/3 as often as no-hitters do. And it's something about, I think they get less attention because, and I mean, who was that dude who threw one for the Dodgers a couple of years ago? Left-handed relief pitcher who you'd be like, wait, who? I'll look him up in a minute when you're talking again. They are just they're almost fluky, but also if you look at the list, most of the immaculate innings have been thrown by really good pitchers. But yeah, so it's an interesting thing that I don't know. I agree. I don't know if I would have put it that high on the list, but they're really rare and they are really cool when you do get to see one.
Oh, Zach
Rosscup. Yeah. And Zach Rosscup right now, I would guess there's a lot of big Dodger fans listening to this. I would guess Zach Rosscup, most of the people listening are either, oh yeah, I kind of remember that name, or I've never heard that name. Nobody thinks of him as a classic Dodger, and yet he threw an immaculate inning. But Scherzer threw one with the Dodgers. Kershaw's thrown one. Sandy Koufax threw a couple. There are a lot of really good pitchers who've done it too.
Ryan Pepio threw one this year too. So.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, there's a lot more plays, but the next batch of plays is probably one that we're going to have the most discussion on. So we'll save that. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel can help you take on the NFL action because it's America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. I told you, keep betting on the Raiders to lose. The Raiders did lose. So if you would have had that $5 bet, you would have hit. If you did put $5 on Bijan Robinson to score, he didn't score actually. So, but he did have a lot of rushing yards. So you can't knock the thought behind it. But either way, FanDuel can help you make that $5 bet. Can make you bets while games are going on. Live betting is a fun way to get in on the action. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you think you see some trends and some stats going a certain way, you might want to say, hey, let me put, some money on this, and boom, FanDuel can help you out because the FanDuel Sportsbook app has all that there. They got the latest stats, live play-by-play, and so much more. So go to FanDuel.com to join today, and remember, you can get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's episode is also brought to you by Select Quote. It's important to have strategies if you are coaching or playing or whatever in sports. It's also important to have strategies in life, and that leading strategy for life is having the best life insurance on your bench with Select Quote to protect your legacy and your family's future. Winning strategies can help you get the most you can get out of life and your life insurance. And Select Quote can help you because they are one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. And other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And these policies are more affordable than you think. You could get coverage for up to $1 million for as little as $20 a month. So head to selectquote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Select Quote. They shop, you save, get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedon. Go to selectquote.com/lockedon today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedon. I want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you are one, an everydayer is just someone that listens or watches every day. There's a few you here live with us on YouTube right now in the chat. I'm sure there's plenty more of you out there listening in whatever capacity you listen to. So we appreciate you. If you're not an everydayer, it's pretty easy to become one. You just listen or watch every day. And if you're not quite ready for that commitment, you can up your listen. So if you're listening right now and you want to listen one more time this week, that's boom, better. And then by next week, you'll say, hey, maybe I want to listen to another. Now you're up to 3 and so on and so forth. And remember, you can go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You get text directly from us, keeping you up to date with the Dodgers and keeping you up to date on this show if you want to know when we're going live and things of that nature. So joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. All right, Jeff. So the Dodgers had in the start of the show, I said they had the top 2. They actually had the top 3. They had 4 of the top 6. Number 6 is Freddie's home run in Game 4 of the World Series, which was his 6th straight World Series game that he had a home run with. 2 with the Braves in 2021, and then 4 with the Dodgers. And I'm not too much to say about this other than, the more and more we've learned about what Freddie was dealing with, just makes it all that much impressive. And the fact of the matter, the Dodgers not revealing a lot of this stuff played into it a little bit because, Freddie made an adjustment that nobody knew about because he had to adjust something that nobody knew about, and the Yankees just kept putting it right there.
Yeah, this one is less of a moment and less of a single play and more of a, the 6 straight games goes back to 2021. It's a record that was 4 years in the making. But yeah, you can't say enough about Freddie Freeman. There's been a ton of words said about what he did in the World Series, and it will never be enough to explain what a superstar, what a legend he is. We talked about how Brett Honeywell might become a legend. Freddie Freeman is both a hero and a legend, so he will never die, and he will, what is it? Heroes get remembered, legends never die. So yeah, he'll get remembered and he'll never die.
Yeah. All right, number 3 is Ohtani's walk-off grand slam for 40-40. Obviously a great moment. A walk-off grand slam in itself is a great moment, and we're going to talk about another one right now. But first, Ohtani's to get 40-40. It just, added to the overall year of Ohtani.
Yeah, how fun is it that the Dodgers have the top 3 plays? 2 of them are walk-off grand slams. One of them to become the 6th guy ever to get 40-40. One to win a World Series game. Just ridiculous, like how spoiled we were as Dodger fans this year. And yeah, that 40-40 one was, that whole inning, and, the Dodgers, everything that went on in that inning, how they could have won earlier, everything, how Jose Siri almost caught the ball and didn't. It was just, and yeah, like it was most years that would be number 1.
Yeah. All right. So now 1 and 2. Number 1, was Shohei Ohtani's 50-50 home run, and number 2 was Freddie's World Series Game 2 Grand Slam, or Game 1 Grand Slam.
Yeah, and this is if I was making the list, these would be switched for me. Like, and maybe it is because I'm a Dodger fan. Like, obviously, I love Shohei Ohtani. I'm a big Shohei Ohtani fan. That was a Shohei Ohtani moment, and I feel like Freddie's Grand Slam was a Dodgers moment. And so, I get why Ohtani is number 1 on the list for an MLB list and everything. For me, we actually just rewatched that when I was at my parents' house in California last week. We rewatched that Marlins game when Ohtani got to 50-50. Like, other than the historical nature of the home run, that was maybe my least favorite. Definitely my least favorite of Ohtani's 3 home runs that day. And I think his 2 doubles were even more exciting because, one of them was almost a home run. The other one, he tried to stretch into a triple. Like, that one, it's just the 50-50. And the other 2 home runs were both just such blasts to right field up to the upper deck. More fun to watch. But that one was obviously hugely historic, doing something nobody has ever done before. I get why it was number 1 on the list. But for me as a Dodger fan, a walk-off grand slam in the World Series, especially, just like Kirk Gibson's, down by a run, 2 outs, all that stuff. And what we found out later about what Freddie was going through. You and I have talked about how I watched that home run, Freddie Freeman's grand slam. I watched it 11 or 12 times today. And it's been what, a month and a half? And I'm never going to get tired of it. And it is not just the biggest play this year, but for me, it's the biggest play maybe ever.
Yeah, I think for me, it should be number 1 because, like you mentioned with Ohtani, something that's never been done before. Freddie Freeman also did something that's never been done before. Hit a walk-off grand slam to win, in the World Series.
And the way I heard it described as somebody that is a compelling argument is that 50-50 is less likely to be done again. A walk-off grand slam in the World Series could happen at any time. And, yes, the Dodgers did go on to win the World Series, but it was only Game 1, but so was Kirk Gibson. So, I get the argument, but because I do think 50-50 will never happen again. And so that's meaningful. But yeah, I mean, it's the World Series, man.
Yeah, that's the point. Like the World Series, if it was NLDS, NLCS, I can understand. But either way, like as a Dodger fan, we have the top 3, so you can't complain too much. Real quick, we'll run through some of the plays that the Dodgers were on the wrong side of.
And this one again, 6 of these 14 came from the postseason, just like 6 of the 11 that the Dodgers were on the good side of came from the postseason. So that, I mean, almost half of their plays came from the fact that they played deeper in the postseason than anybody else and won it all. And so you're going to get more plays like that. You want me to run down these ones?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that you might not even remember if you're,
Yeah, if you watched every game like we did, but even some of them, I watched some of them. I watched this whole list or the whole thing to make this list. Number 83 was Lindor's play on a Mookie ground ball in the NLCS. It was a nice play. Wouldn't have been on the list if it wasn't in the playoffs for sure. 81 was Aaron Judge robbing Freddie Freeman of either a double or a home run I think that was in Game 5 or Game 4 of the World Series. No,
Game 5.
Game 5. Number 80, Jackson Merrill, a diving catch on Gapper by Shohei Ohtani to right center field. I don't remember. I honestly, when I watched them, I remember that play happened. I don't remember if it was the playoffs or that last series that they played at Dodger Stadium in the regular season. I don't know. And number 69 was Jerickson Profar robbing Mookie Betts in Game 1 of the NLDS. We definitely remember that one. 65, Luis Matos robbing Teoscar Hernandez, which I remember mostly because it was the only time all season that Luis Matos didn't look completely helpless in the outfield. And it happened to be robbing Teo of a home run. 54 was Johan Rojas robbing Kike of a double at the wall in Philadelphia. You probably remember like sprinting from center field toward left center where the wall kind of juts out and he like caught it and then like hits the wall at an angle, like spins around. It was a nice play. 53, Tyrone Taylor robbing Tommy Edman in the NLCS. I didn't see that one live because I was on vacation. I was listening on the radio. It ended up being a sac fly. Chris Taylor scored on it, which was all that really mattered to me at the time until I saw the play later. Number 49, George Springer robbing Andy Pages of a double. I watched this and I'm like, I've never seen this play before, but I know I did because I watched that series. So but apparently that was a nice play.
Yeah, George Springer making a defensive play. I definitely don't remember that.
Yeah. Number 48, Brenton Doyle robbing Shohei Ohtani of a double. I think that might have been in that last series of the season when the Dodgers dominated the series. Brenton Doyle was so good all year. He was on the list a couple times. Number 44 was Verdugo's catch on Shohei's pop-up right before the Grand Slam. Obviously would have been higher if it had helped the Yankees win that game, but instead it was more of a footnote. Number 42 was Elly De La Cruz stealing 4 bases in a game against the Dodgers. I believe Austin Barnes caught that game, so there's an asterisk next to that one. Number 26 is Pete Crow Armstrong robbing Max Muncy to end that game, when Pete Crow Armstrong made every play, that whole series, but like just get out of here, PCA. Number 11 with the Anthony Volpe's Grand Slam in Game 4 of the World Series, obviously a big play. And number 7 was the Padres turning that stupid triple play to clinch their playoff spot against the Dodgers in that last series, the first game of that last series. So, 14 plays that went against the Dodgers, which I think just goes to show teams go all out when they play the Dodgers.
Yeah, that triple play was if you just broke down the timeline from that triple play to the end of the season, man, it's such like from that feeling where we still thought the Dodgers were going to win the division, but it was just like, really, that's how that game was going to freaking end. And then they ended up clinching the division, and then they ended up doing everything else from beyond that. So maybe that was the catalyst to maybe the Padres got to have that. They got to go up 2-1 in the series, Padre fans, and then that's all they really got.
And I told you at the time, I need the Dodgers to win the World Series so that when I see this triple play for the rest of my life, I can laugh about it and how stupid it was instead of being angry about it. Tonight, when I was getting ready for this episode, was the first time I've watched it since the Dodgers won the World Series, and I just laughed about it, how stupid it was. So that's perfect. It's a fun, stupid baseball play. If it was 2 other teams involved, it would be a play that I loved. It would be so much fun to watch. And I was happy that I could just watch and laugh and shake my head and say, man, that was dumb. But yeah, Mookie Betts was definitely right when he said it's going to be every other team's World Series and they play the Dodgers. They know it's time to get on MLB's top 100 list when we're facing the Dodgers.
Yeah. All right. Last thing before we go, Aaron Judge, we talked about the ball that got auctioned off, so for $43K last week. It was whoever found it, I guess it was listed on a site that was attributed to the Dodgers or had the Dodgers logo or something like that. But I never personally thought it was the Dodgers were selling it. I know that there's like dirt from those fields that are sold on like it's like an MLB offsite or something like that, whatever it is, that does auctions and stuff like that. So, Yankee fans are very angry at the way the Dodgers players and fans and everyone else involved with the Dodgers has, kind of handled the offseason so far, mostly because Dodger players, kept saying that the Padres felt like more of the World Series and that they knew the Yankees, were maybe not as great on defense and in different fundamentals of baseball. And then, obviously Dodger fans have earned the right to gloat because, everyone tried to diminish 2020 and now the Dodgers won 2024. And there's nothing you can tell us as Dodger fans right now. So.
Yeah, Mark Feinsand reported this was a MLB's year in review auction run by the league, and the Dodgers being part of the league because this play was related to the Dodgers, they shared it on their site, so it showed up on their site. But yeah, it never made sense that the Dodgers would even have ownership of that ball. The game was at Yankee Stadium. Obviously all the balls go to the authenticator. They're owned by Major League Baseball. So it makes a lot more sense, and I hope whoever spent a half hour on his radio show crying about how classless the Dodgers are feels at least a modicum of self-awareness and shame, but probably not.
Yeah. That's why you win the World Series. You don't have to worry about all that stuff. So.
Yeah, and catch the ball. You don't got to worry about that too.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Last listen, any listen. Make sure you listen to Locked On Dodgers. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you watch every day. Become an everydayer. Make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles Those are streaming channels 24/7 on YouTube. Make sure to go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers to become a Locked On Dodgers insider and get text directly from us, updating you on the latest Dodger news and thoughts and all that stuff. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff's on Twitter at Snider. I'm at VitSense91. You can DM us with any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, tear your smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.